welcome to Algebra 1/2, Lesson 36. Let's go ahead and get started. We are looking at two concepts today. The first one is adding fractions, or adding mixed numbers, I should say, and the second concept is rate. Now with adding mixed numbers, this is something that you've been practicing for a good while now, so it's nothing new to you, but we're just kind of reviewing it to make sure that you're solid on this concept. So if I have a problem like this, 2 1/4 plus 3 1/8 plus 7 1/2. Well, in order to add my mixed numbers, first I'm going to look at my fractions. What do I have to have in all of my fractions in order to add them? A common denominator, that's right. Do my fractions have common denominators? Unfortunately, not yet, so I have to change them. So I'm going to ignore right now my whole number just so that I can change my fractions. So my fractions are 4, 8, and 2, my denominators. What is my least common denominator? Well, that means that we need to find the number that's the smallest multiple of all three numbers. So let's start with my biggest number, 8. What's the very first multiple of 8? 8, that's right. And so is 8 a multiple of 4? Yeah. Is 8 a multiple of 2? Yes, it is. So that is going to be my least common multiple, which makes it my least common denominator. So I have, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write it vertically. Why? Because it's a little easier to add because we typically add in a column. So I'm going to go ahead and write each fraction vertically. Often in your book, you'll see it horizontally, and in your work, you'll probably want to write it vertically, just like I'm about to do. So 2 and it's going to be something 8ths plus 3, and we can go ahead and put our numerator here because the denominator doesn't change, so neither will the numerator, 3 1/8, plus 7 and something 8ths. Okay, well, what do I multiply 4 by to get to 8? By 2. So I multiply my numerator, 1 times 2, which is 2. So this becomes 2 and 2/8. Then down here, we multiply 2 by 4 to get 8. So we multiply our numerator by 4, and 1 times 4 is 4. And now I add my fractions, then I add my whole numbers. 2/8 plus 1/8 is 3/8. 3 plus 4 is 7. So it's 7/8. 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 7 is 12. So our answer is 12 and 7/8, just like that. Okay, let's move on to the next one. 528 1/3 plus 7,142 3/4. Okay, these are huge numbers, so once again, we're going to focus on first our fraction, and then our whole number. So I have a third here and a fourth here. What's their least common denominator? Did you say 12? You would be right, it is 12. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this one right here where it is. So it's going to become 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 1 is 4. And I'm going to bring this one over here, 7,142. New denominator will be 12. 4 times 3 is 12, so my numerator is times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now I'm going to add it up. 4 plus 9 is 13, so 13/12. 8 plus 2 is 10. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7. 5 plus 1 is 6. Nothing added to the 7, so we have 7,670 and 13/12. Now, because we have an improper fraction here, this is the one time in algebra that I cannot permit you to leave the improper fraction. 13/12 would be 1 and 1/12. So I have to add that now to my 7,670 to get my final answer. So 7,670 plus 1 is 7,671. And then we have our 1/12 fraction left over. So that's your final answer. Let me know if you're confused at all about that. All right, let's try one more example. 421 3/5 plus 274 1/20. Let's focus first on our fractions. 5 and 20, what's their least common denominator? If you said 20, you are correct. It would be 20. So I'm going to put this fraction underneath here since I don't have to change this fraction. 3/5 is going to become something over 20. Well, 5 times what equals 20? 5 times 4 equals 20, so that means I multiply my numerator by 4 as well. And 3 times 4 is 12. Good job. So it's 12/20ths. Bring over my whole number, 421. And now I add 1 plus 12 is 13 over 20. 4 plus 1 is 5. 7 plus 2 is 9. 2 plus 4 is 6. So we have 695 13/20ths. And that's all that you've got. So that's the fraction portion of our lesson. Stay tuned for the rate portion of our lesson. Okay guys, so let's talk about rate. Rate is the same thing as ratio. Rate and ratio. This is an I, the little dots right there might be hard to see. So rate is the same thing as ratio. And what is a ratio then? Well, a ratio is a comparison of two numbers. When you compare two numbers to each other, they often have different units. You have a ratio. So we are going to use ratios a lot in algebra, but this is just a beginning introduction, so let's take a look at what we've got here. If 2 apples can be purchased for 16 cents, what would be the ratio to compare the 2 apples for a worth of 16 cents? Well, you could write it, often ratios are written as a fraction, showing how you compare the numbers. So you could write it as 2 apples for 16 cents with 2 apples in the numerator and 16 cents in the denominator. Or you could write it as 16 cents for 2 apples with 16 cents in the numerator and 2 apples in the denominator. It doesn't matter which one you do. They're both really showing the same ratio. It depends on what you need to find, what you need to use your ratio or your rate for, that will determine which of these 2 ratios you need to use in your problem. And you'll see more what I mean as we get further on into this concept. Okay, so we can often use the word per to express a ratio when we're just talking with our words. So I could first simplify this ratio that I have right here. You see this fraction, 2/16? What would that reduce to? It would reduce to 1/8. Very good. So I could write this as 1/8, and then I put the unit that's in my numerator, apples, per cent. So I have 1/8 apples per cent. So for every cent, I have 1/8 of an apple is what this is saying. So 1/8 apples per cent. So when I reduce it and I write it with my numerator unit first, and then my denominator, the reason that we do the numerator and then the denominator unit is because that's exactly what this division, what our fraction bar means. It's division, which is often represented with the word per. So apples per cents. So 1/8 apples per cent. Or for this ratio, it would be, well, I need to first simplify. 16 divided by 2 is what? 8. Excellent. So this one would be 8. Cents is the one arriba, so cents per apple. So 8 cents per apple. All right, let's practice a little bit. Example 36.4 says, Waldo bought 5 toys for $40. What was the rate or ratio, since they mean the same thing, in dollars per toy? What was the rate or ratio in toys per dollar? So let's write this out, okay? So the first one, A, says what was the rate or ratio in dollars per toy? So that means when I write my ratio, I have dollars on top per toy. Now it says that he bought 5 toys for $40. So 5 toys for $40. I just matched the numbers up with the unit. Now I'm going to simplify my little ratio here so that this would equal 40 divided by 5 is 8. So $8 per toy. That's simplified, okay? Now let's look at the next one. Letter B asks, what was the rate or ratio in toys per dollar? So when I draw my ratio, it's toys per dollar. So toys on the top, dollars on the bottom. Toys, we know it's 5 toys for $40. This reduces to 1/8. Toys, because that's on top, so that comes first, per, then we have dollars. Okay, so 1/8 toys per dollar would be the second ratio. All right, now it's your turn to demonstrate you understand what you're doing. So pause now to do your practice. Okay, you should be back from doing your practice, ready to go. Letter A, you should have gotten 5 3/10. Letter B would be 785 3/20, because you ended up with 784 and 23 over 20, and then 23 over 20 changes to 1 3/20. Add the 1 to your previous whole number, so 784 plus 1 is 785, and then you have your fraction, 3/20. Letter C, you should have gotten the 2 ratios, the first one. So this needs to be your first one because it first asks what was his rate in yards per second. So the first one should be 8 yards per second. Then the second one, what was his rate in seconds per yard? So the second one is 1/8 seconds per yard. Then letter D, the first one, because it asks for the rate in apples per dollar, so that should be 4 apples per dollar. And then the second one, because it asks for dollars per apple, you need to have 1/4 dollars per apple. Okay guys, that's your practice. That's all you have for today. Let me know if you have any questions about this concept. If you need help with anything at all, I am here for you. All right guys, have a wonderful day. Love you very much. Bye.